Gosh, I loved Annette Bening and everything she's ever done. I'm just a huge fan and always have been from, the Grifters on. And I had no idea that she's as nerdy and funny and really good cook and is, I don't want to say stoic, but like the most non-complainy person I've ever worked with. Non-complainy, it's a new word, I just invented it. So
you went to Yale, right?
I did.
Well, there you go.
I feel
non-complaining.
very, super blessed. I don't know why we never worked together again, but we're never working with anyone else ever again.
I was on the movie and had decided to do it, and I was already, in it. And they said, "Well, we're going to go to Jodie Foster," and I just said, "She'll never do it." Why I said that, I don't know, but I did. And so then they said, "Oh no, she's interested. She wants to come and meet you." Then I was like, "Uh-oh, Jodie Foster's going to come to my house. I better, do a good job." But I was just, so incredibly impressed and grateful that she ended up doing the film because she brings so much to the table. She's a director, she's a writer, she's a filmmaker. She gets the whole picture. So when she's looking at something, she's just not thinking, how does Bonnie Stoll sound? Or, how am I going to do this character? She's looking at the whole thing. And that was a great gift to us because we have two wonderful directors, Jimmy and Chai, who are documentarians and very accomplished and incredibly resourceful, bright people. But they had never done a narrative film. So they had the blessing of having Jodie there, who was also helping with all kinds of other ideas and script ideas, wonderful script ideas. So I just feel so lucky that we got to play these two really unusual women and that there's a story about this relationship between these two women, and that's like very unusual and very cool.
What did you cook to impress her on that first
What
date?
did I cook? Was it chicken and potatoes?
Good things.
Was
yes,
it lentil
those
soup?
Are good.
Yeah, that's one of my good ones. I have a great garbanzo bean stew as well that I can tell you about.
She used to cook on a boat.
I did. I was
so
a very
she can
bad
cook with like one little pot and a spoon.
No, but I was a bad cook. If there's anybody that was on the boat, I'm sorry. I apologize for my scrambled eggs and my grilled cheese. It was really bad. I think that a big ego is a weak ego, really. And people who have that, a lot of bluster, it's because of that something inherently fragile that's going on inside. And I think what's so interesting about Diana is that she does have a lot of bluster, and she is very obviously, charismatic and intelligent and energetic and willing to say, "I'm going to do that," when everybody else would say, "No, you can't do that, so just stop." But with Diana, I think it is true that she has a kind of inner softness and a vulnerability to her, and that it's because of everything that happened to her, just like all of us, I guess, when she was a kid, that she had to find that thing within her, not only the will and the power to do it, but the desire. Because really, I mean, how many of us regard ourselves well enough to say, my life is important enough that I'm going to go and do this thing? And I think good acting requires the same kind of humility, and that anything that's overconfident isn't interesting, right? It's like the dualities in people are what's interesting, and it's certainly within her. It's certainly within Bonnie.
Yeah, I think that one of the beauties of the film as a film is that for all of her failures, and there were many failures, she tried this many times, but it wasn't until the end that she finally let go and said, "Yeah, I'm just not going to push anymore. I may not make it, and I accept that, and I'm just going to do what I do." And there was a kind of admitting, in a way, of her humility that allowed her to, that and the Gulf Stream, that allowed her to get to the end. That last swim was some kind of miracle intervention between Mother Nature and Diana's reckoning, really.
And risk-taking is actually quite freeing, really, right? And because if you're just thinking and you're considering and you're not deciding and you're maybe I will and maybe I won't, and then you're just, because we all live in that with so many things that we do, right? But then the minute you say, well, actually, I am going to do this, whatever happens, then you have that. But you don't have, I don't know what would happen. You have that. And so then when you risk, it's sort of like, oh, I'm free now. What's the worst that can happen? And that there's a lot of freedom in going into that of like, well, what is the worst that can happen? Death.
Yes.
Which of course
Is
Diana did go to. And she's like, well, if that's what has to happen, I'm actually willing to do that. And it's like, oh, well then I guess you're kind of free, aren't you? Yeah, so there's something about that that's kind of interesting.